England, drama originated as an extension of religion. Churches used the mode of drama to instruct, to make the service more interesting, to show people that everything good is at the end rewarded and the evil is punished. This was the origin of drama, where the playwright's intention was to impart some moral lessons. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. I hope you are all doing well. Welcome to another episode of UGC NET preparation. This is episode 4 and today we are going to discuss Renaissance theatre. We have discussed in our previous lecture about the miracle and mystery plays and their relation to the church services. We have seen that eventually those plays started to spread outside the church. In England, miracle and mystery plays are interchangeable. But in France, mystery plays are any play which deals with the stories of the Bible. And miracle plays are based on the lives of the saints. Because in order to become a saint, one needs to perform a miracle. After some time, the idea of drawing materials from the Bible and religious scriptures slowly fade out and the things become more general. But here also the intention of the dramatist is clear: to teach the common people what is good in life, how should you spend your life, and what your moral idea should be. This is the idea behind what we now know as the morality play. Chronologically, we can say that the morality play evolved later, after miracle and mystery plays, but they kind of existed together as well. This is the backdrop. And Renaissance drama is diametrically opposite in ethics and morality. The first major development is to observe is the development of interludes. Towards the end of the 15th century, a more specialized kind of morality play started to rise, which were very much independent of the scriptures, with pronounced realistic and comic elements. These plays were performed in between royal plays and feasts. Usually they were sponsored by patrons. They were short in duration and they had to be performed between the time between two main courses. These were called interludes because they made a bridge between the early morality plays and the later more complex kind of secular plays. By the 16th century, interludes completely dissociated itself from the idea of ethics and morality. Now they started to be performed only as pieces of entertainment. Dissociation of entertainment and ethics took the drama out of the clutches of the religion. Towards the end of the 15th century, there was this play by Henry Medwall. This was the first secular play. This was not taken from the Bible or the religious scriptures at all. Parallel to this, we have a few humanists play. John Russell's The Four Elements. Humanism was a way of looking at the world, keeping humans at the center. We know that with the development of science and exploration and technology, we have a world where human beings are considered as logical people who are capable of doing reasoning. Life is seen not as predetermined by God or fate, rather a set of human choices. This choice separates Renaissance drama from both medieval theatre as well as from Greek theatre. We see more and more of this questioning of the choices and the error of judgment. It means men are now more responsible than it was earlier believed. Do you know who was John Russell? John Russell was the brother-in-law of Sir Thomas More. And Sir Thomas More is known for his famous work Utopia. It was based on the mindset of exploration and scientific development. This work was a very important landmark. It is very interesting to note that the term utopia is taken from the word utopos, means nowhere, or utopos, means good place. He tried to show a world in a satiric mode, a kind of world that does not exist. Let's come back to interludes. It was John Haywood who popularized the interludes. He was a court jester in the court of Queen Mary. He developed something with this interlude which became the first foundation of English comedy. This is how the bridge was built. Eventually, we have full-fledged comedies. His interludes, which were written between 1520s to 1540s, are very important, which include the Four Ps, the play of weather, Since he was a court jester, this plays focus on entertainment and not on moral teaching. But it is not true that because of the interludes, the morality plays died off completely. Morality plays continued even in the late 16th century. Even later, mixed with other forms like tragedies. Things are happening parallelly. It is not like that some clear cut divisions can be seen. First real play with the clear cut division of acts and scene in English language is probably Ralph Roister Doister by Nicholas Woodall. Woodall was heavily influenced by the classical playwright Plutus. Therefore, we find a combination of classical elements with native ideas. But there is a lot of artificiality. Another piece is very mentionable here, that is Gummergotten's Needle by William Stevenson. It was the first domestic comedy. While experimenting with comedy was going on, we had the first English tragedy written by Thomas Sackville and Thomas Norton in 1561, titled Gorboduc. The other title was Ferrex and Porrex. Ferrex and Porrex were the two sons of the king. It was the kind of story which was later retold by Shakespeare in King Lear. This play was also a reflection on the ongoing civil war, the history of civil war. Another interesting fact to note here is that this is the first play that was written in blank verse. Blank verse is unrhyming verse in iambic pentameter. The rhythm is biased towards a pattern in which an unrhymed syllable is followed by a stressed one. Now, why blank verse is important? Because when the characters speak in blank verse, especially the royal characters, when the royal characters speak, they speak in rhymes. And the common people are usually given prose. This is to show some difference in class. So when the audience finds characters speak in rhyme, they naturally distance themselves from the person on the stage speaking in rhyme. And when blank verse was introduced, there was no rhyme, but still sound of it was majestic and poetic. Therefore, the blank verse helped reducing the distance. Because at Renaissance time, the educated people spoke very similar in tone, which is like the blank verse. This identification helped in the development of drama. Now, no matter what experimentations are done, the unities are strictly followed. According to Aristotle, three unities must be followed in all plays. The unity of time, place, and action. The unity of time is that the action of the play should be over within 24 hours of time period. Whatever past may be included, they should be included in the flashback kind of technique. Like somebody is remembering the past or somebody is narrating the past. Now, what is unity of place? Unity of place is that the action of the place revolve into one single location. And what is unity of action? That any tragedy should involve one single plot, no subplot, no diversion. During this time, these unities were strictly adhered to. Seneca was a very important influence on the people who were writing during this time. There was a very sharp line between a tragedy and a comedy. Sidney, in his defense of poetry, wrote that Gorboduc is a fine example of a tragedy. He said that nowadays people are mixing everything up, but Gorboduc is a fine example of a tragedy. Sidney maintained that unities should be strictly followed to keep up the essence of tragedies and comedies. Now, with the progression of the 16th century, drama became more variant and more inclusive because life is not only about tragedy or comedy, it is about both. If one wants to explore or imitate the action of life, it is seen that life is not about the unitary expression of laughter or grief. It is a combination. So the more you want to imitate the action of life, you have to mix the two separate genres together. This was happening on popular demands. People wanting to see new kind of things. Now the question is, who were producing these plays? Now there are profit-making independent playhouses. They were growing up. Their aim was to produce the play, to entertain the audience, to earn money. No moral burden and no idea of preaching any kind of religious sentiment. They helped in the secularization of the drama. By and by, there was a clash created between the city and the stage because the government bodies realized that they do not have any control over the content of these plays because these production houses were only catering to the choices of the public, and these production houses set the production house or the stage outside the jurisdiction of the city, that is outside the jurisdiction of the mayor, and that created a kind of a rift. Then there was this rising Puritan ethos who were against the entertainment. It directly opposed the idea of drama itself. Queen Elizabeth came to the throne. She loved entertainment, she loved drama. She wanted to make sure that people's needs are satisfied. Now that her nation is growing, now colonies are being settled and wealth is pouring in because of the growing trade in commerce. She knew that people wanted to be entertained. She knew that people wanted to spend the wealth. She became the principal patron of the theatre. Robert Dudley, the first Earl of Leicester, set up the first production house called the Theatre in 1576, and he established this theatre at the outskirts of the city. Some sources say that Shakespeare got his first job in this theatre. It is said that the timber from this theatre is taken to rebuild the Globe Theatre. That is also a kind of a rebirth. Globe Theatre is a theatre in London associated with William Shakespeare. It was built in 1599 by Shakespeare's playing company, the Lord Chamberlain's men, on the land inherited by Thomas Brand, later inherited by his son Nicholas Brand and his grandson Matthew Brand, and was destroyed by fire in 16th June 1613. A second Globe Theatre was built at the same place in June 1614 and closed by an ordinance in 1642. Globe Theatre became the symbol of Renaissance. Now let's come back to the theatres before the Globe Theatre. The theatre before the Globe Theatres were actually like a shape of an octagon, and it was surrounded by galleries, and the stage was divided by inner and outer stage. There was a curtain to divide these two stages. There was also an upper stage, and very few props are used, but the costumes were very elaborate. Originally, the scenic background was not used. The characters would usually talk about the background. During this time, no women would act on the stage. Women characters were played by young boys. This could be one of the reasons that the Puritans felt enraged. How can a man act like a woman? This is going against nature. Let's talk about the university wits. This phase of theatre was best utilized by a group of men freshly graduated from the universities. They started to bring their own ideas fresh, and they are known as the university wits. They graduated from the universities of Cambridge and Oxford because these universities were flourishing when the learning was being revived. These people were bringing different kind of ideas because of their learning as well as because of their youth. From Cambridge, we have Christopher Marlowe, Robert Greene, and Thomas Nash. From Oxford, we have John Lilly, Thomas Lodge, and George Pill. Though Thomas Kidd was not a university graduate, still his works are discussed along with these people. Each of these university wits had their own unique style, and they were grouped together because of their educational background. John Lilly appealed more to children and young adults. He used mythologies and his prose was very stylized. His basic genre is comedy. His important plays are Campus Pay, Sappho and Phao, Endymion, Galatea, and Mother Bombay. His prose books are Euphues, The Anatomy of Wit, Euphues, and his Legend. Robert Greene was a real bohemian type. He did not follow the rules at all. He did not follow the rules when he was writing comedy. In not following the rule, he accidentally created what later came to be known as the romantic comedy. George Pill started writing mythological and pastoral kind of plays, but he was not a very gifted dramatist, but he had great style. Thomas Lodge is more known for his prose work Rosalind. This is the material for later Shakespearean comedy. Which comedy? I would like you to mention that in the comment below. Thomas Kidd developed what we now know as revenge tragedy. In revenge tragedy, we see love, conspiracy, murder, and even complicated relationship. Not on the level of dialogue, but on the level of action. According to Aristotle, stage was a place where you cannot show violence. But with revenge tragedy, we see a lot of blood, gore, and actual stabbing happening on the stage. The work of Thomas Kidd was an actual work of revenge tragedy. It is called the Spanish tragedy. Here he mixes Seneca's tragedy with a lot of melodrama. So there is revenge, violence, horror, the speed of action, all mixed up, and it took Renaissance stage by storm. It created the new era. It became the model of Hamlet. Christopher Marlowe was the greatest predecessor of Shakespeare. He was born in the same year as Shakespeare in 1564. He died very young in 1593. He was a son of a shoemaker and he got educated. He knew what it is meant to rise in life. Apart from this poem, Hero and Leander, he gave four magnificent tragedies. Dr. Faustus, Tamburlaine, the Jew of Malta, and Edward II. Tamburlaine is the story of Taimur the Lame and his ambition, and how his ambition became the reason of his fall. He conquered the vast land and reeked of a disease. He wanted to conquer his last battle as well, but he could not because he could not fight off his own body. In it, we find Marlowe's mighty lines, the sonorous blank verse, and the dialogues which characterize Marlowe's major plays. Dr. Faustus is also a story of a man who is not from the royal background. He is a man who is pursuing higher education and learning. He begins the play in a way where Faustus is deciding which stream of study he should follow. He chooses black magic or necromancy. In doing so, he ended up conjuring the devil Mephistopheles and made a pact with the devil that he will get 24 years of his life with absolute power and knowledge in exchange of his soul. He signs that with his blood. After 24 years, the devil summons his soul. And this was the time Marlowe shows Faustus's crisis. This crisis is something which has never been shown on stage so far. So far, the punishment of evil and the reward of the good pleased the audience. But this character, whom we see from the beginning to the end, we start to identify with this character. We feel attached with this character, and at the end, we feel shocked by the end. This makes the hero unheroic, anti-hero in a way. The Jew of Malta shows a same kind of anti-hero. Barabbas is a moneylender. There is nothing glorious or hardly anything redeemable in his character. Interestingly, Marlowe does not even make him repent anything. Barabbas wanted to burn his enemies in a cauldron and ended up falling in it and dying. While dying, he is cursing, blaspheming. Remember, in Macbeth, the witches are throwing the liver of a blaspheming Jew in the cauldron. Could this be reference to Barabbas in the Jew of Malta? In Edward II, Marlowe exposes the weakness of the king. Till now, he was showing human weaknesses in strong characters. Edward is not powerful but thinks himself as powerful and wanted to act like that. What is one common thing among all these plays? He is bringing characters from different countries and different backgrounds. What joins them is ambition, greed, and certain disregard of the convention. This is probably something he wanted to celebrate. We also find certain level of morality, especially in Dr. Faustus. He shows the expanse of characters. Human beings are capable of so much variety of emotions. At the same time, they are like so much like each other and also like the audience watching the plays. He introduced the character of Isabella, the queen of Edward II. Her relation to Mortimer provides an extra angle to the story. She is unlike any other characters developed so far on English stage. He uses exotic place names because of the continuous exploration of English colonies. The realization that the world is not what the Bible tells us, and it is beyond the explanation of one single religious text. With Edward II, he begins the genre of historical or chronicle play. This gets perfected in the hands of William Shakespeare. In Marlowe, we see the obsession and intoxication of power, and we also see human agency, that humans have the right to destroy himself. He does not pass a moral judgment to that. If one destroys oneself, one faces the consequences. Freedom of choice comes with the acceptance of the consequences. We see influence of Machiavelli on Christopher Marlowe. Power is not related to morality, it's in the choices, and the ruler should have the knowledge of the power. He dissociated morality from power. Thomas Hobbes in Leviathan also gives similar kind of theory. English people were going on voyages and thus taking risks. They were also taking risks while experimenting with technologies. And Marlowe's plays explores the boundaries of these experimentations and the associated risks. They paint the transience of human life. Interesting fact is that none of Shakespeare's plays were success before the death of Marlowe. They were born at the same time, but Shakespeare became popular after the death of Marlowe. Marlowe is one of the perfect predecessors of Shakespeare. We will discuss Shakespeare in detail in our next lecture. I am pausing the lecture here and I hope that you like this video. And for more videos like this, keep an eye on my channel. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.